What up, y'all? It's DJ Envy.
And I am Gia Casey.
And this is another edition of the KC Crew.
Welcome.
And first, let's start off by shouting out everybody that's been DMing us and emailing us about Gia and I trying to have another baby.
Yes.
Now, this has been different than all the other babies for some reason. Usually it's 1, 2, 3. And this one has been 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It's been a little longer. Now, if you just joined us and don't know what we're talking about, you want to explain a little bit what we've been going through?
Yes. Well, we've been trying to have baby number 6 for, I don't know, I guess maybe in the ballpark of 8, 9, 10 months or so.
Mm-hmm.
And we haven't been successful. So we've had a lot of discussions and we decided that we were going to go through fertility treatments.
Right.
And it's been a process. It hasn't been very easy. And we just got our pregnancy test results back from last week. If you listened to last week's podcast, you know that we're pretty much sitting and waiting on pregnancy test results. And the test came back, and I'm just going to throw it out there early so that, you know, you don't have to wait. They were negative.
Correct.
So we are not pregnant. So now we have to decide what the next step is going to be. We did an IUI treatment, which is intrauterine insemination. And if you didn't hear the podcast last week, I'll just give you a brief synopsis. Basically, Rashawn gave a sperm sample and they inseminated me with that sperm sample. And there was only a 10% chance of success.
Correct.
Using that process. Basically, what that process did is it tips the odds in our favor. But, you know, when you hear 10%, it doesn't sound very promising. But, you know, when we as women get pregnant naturally, it's even less than that. You don't really have a very high percentage of getting pregnant if you are having sex when you're ovulating. So all of us women that have achieved pregnancy in the past, you know, we have to consider ourselves very lucky. So with a 10% success rate, it didn't work this time. So we have the option of doing IUI once again, or we can move on to a more invasive treatment called IVF or in vitro fertilization.
Correct.
And we've been running around the past week like chickens without heads. So we barely had the opportunity to sit down and have a conversation to decide how we want to move forward.
Right.
So I guess we should have that conversation.
Okay.
Right now.
Well, before we have that conversation, and this is what I was thinking, you know, we fall heavy on God and what we believe God wants us to do and, you know, God doing things for reasons. Did it ever cross your mind that, you know, maybe God didn't want us to have another child? And the reason I say that is, you know, we're heavy into, you know, if we try to buy a house, we can't get it. We'd be like, well, that's just what God wants right now.
Maybe it wasn't meant to be.
Correct. Do you feel that maybe having God want us to have 5 babies?
You know, it's funny that you're bringing that. I'm surprised you haven't brought that up to me in any private conversations. And it's strange, I guess, that I haven't brought that up to you because that has crossed my mind. But I guess I haven't really allowed myself to entertain that idea because we've wanted to have this 6th child so badly.
Right.
And maybe subconsciously, I didn't want to have any negative thoughts surrounding that idea.
Right.
But there have been a few times where I thought, well, maybe it's just not meant to happen because it's not happening naturally, like the other 5. And more adversely, I guess I can say that I considered the idea that, how do you put it? If we have to make something happen and it's not happening naturally, I guess it raised the question, are we going against God or God's plan?
Correct.
You know, are you forcing something that he doesn't have intended for you.
Right.
So is it a good thing? But as soon as that thought came into my mind, I kind of shooed it away in a sense, because you don't really hear people pose that question when it comes to IVF or fertility treatments, things of that nature. But then, when you think about it, I think I have a good, it just occurred to me. Let's say that you wind up having cancer.
Okay.
And
I don't know why you throw cancer on me, but go ahead.
I'm sorry. It's just the first thing that popped into my mind. Let's say we find out that you have cancer. You go to a doctor. You seek treatment for it. You do everything that you can to fight that cancer. You get chemo. Some people start eating organic foods. You go through all types of health treatments to protect yourself against that disease and to try to survive, to remain alive, to keep ticking.
Right.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything wrong with that?
No, not at all. I don't think so.
So you have a health issue or you have a health problem or something that's standing in your way and you seek medical help to get over that hurdle.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing wrong with that.
True. I agree with that.
So what do you think?
I don't know.
Because what's happening, there's some type of issue that's preventing us from getting pregnant or getting pregnant in a reasonable time frame for us.
Right.
I would say that I don't know if saying that it's a health issue is the right terminology, but there's something. So would seeking medical help to get over that hurdle be going against God's plan?
I don't know. I honestly don't know.
But think about it, given the analogy that I just posed.
Given an analogy that you just posed, no. If you look at it like that,
like I don't believe that if we have a health problem or something that can be fixed medically, that God just expects us to succumb to it.
I don't know, but like even pulling the egg out and pulling the sperm out and fertilizing it in a cup and then putting it back inside of you.
It's a petri dish, not cup.
Same difference.
But
same difference. I mean, that just seems a little weird. And what is it called?
What's that?
When they take your egg and take the sperm.
That's in vitro.
In vitro. And the only thing that bothers with me in vitro is if you look at people who had kids through in vitro, their heads are usually big.
Rashawn.
No, I'm serious. It's their heads are a little bigger than most kids' big
It's
heads.
crazy that you asked the doctor that. Like in real life.
I'm
like
supposed to ask the doctor
actually
any concerns or problems that I had or questions. And a lot of times when you see people who had in vitro, sometimes the baby's heads look a little bigger.
But you've seen children with large heads that aren't the result of in vitro fertilization as well. So I think that you're maybe just assigning something that you've noticed and making the process through which they got pregnant the problem.
Yeah, that could be true, but
kind of like you're looking for a problem.
I'm not looking for a problem, but I can notice that.
Okay, so you're noticing a problem?
No, I'm noticing a situation,
which I think is really just a coincidence.
Okay, I don't know about that.
And when we asked the doctor, he said that to his knowledge, there's no known correlation between children with, I don't know, I guess any type of
big heads,
abnormal physical traits, and in vitro or IUI.
Right. I don't know, but anyway. So what's the next process? What's the next thing? What do you suggest? What do you think?
Well, the idea of in vitro scares me a little bit. And the reason is because it is a more invasive procedure, which requires me to undergo anesthesia.
Right.
And, well, let me explain that a little bit. So for those of you that aren't too familiar, and a lot of you are, I'm sure, because you probably have friends or family members or something, or, you just through happenstance know a little bit about the process. But
Right.
in vitro basically means fertilizing outside of the body.
Mm-hmm.
So I would have to go through an egg retrieval. I would have to give myself shots in the stomach,
Mm-hmm.
a series of shots in the stomach that would cause me to produce a multiple amount of eggs.
Correct.
They would go in and remove those eggs.
Mm-hmm.
Rashawn would give a sperm sample and they would fertilize those eggs outside of my body.
Right.
Once they're fertilized, they would, for lack of a better term, check those embryos. They would check the fertilized eggs
Mm-hmm.
and make sure that there are no chromosomal issues.
Correct.
So they want to make sure that the proposed baby would have no birth defects or any
Mhm.
problems.
Gotcha.
And they do that for an extra fee. That doesn't just come along with, the payment for the procedure. So that's an option to
Right.
check. So we would check, and then they would take that fertilized egg and implant it back into my body.
Mm-hmm.
The idea of undergoing anesthesia scares me because if you follow the podcast, you know that my mother has dementia.
Right.
And my mother's dementia was brought on after her having a small car accident
Uh-huh.
and having to have a minor surgery on her arm. And it was nothing that was imminent. She had the surgery maybe 3 or 4 months after her accident. But after the surgery, about 3 weeks later, she started having memory loss, significant memory loss. And that memory loss was catapulted into full-blown dementia.
Right.
And it was a result of her brain's interaction with the anesthesia. I think the term is post-surgical memory disorder.
Mm-hmm.
And she's never recovered from it.
Correct.
It's the type of disease that just manifests over time, and it gets worse over time. So now she's living a small fraction of what her life is supposed to be
Right.
at this age.
Mm-hmm.
And had she not had that surgery, had she not undergone anesthesia, that wouldn't be her life right now.
Right.
But there was no way to know that that was going to be the result of that surgery,
Mhm.
which was optional.
Right.
And the saddest part about it is that she has no idea that she has dementia. And when I think about the idea that maybe it's hereditary,
Mm-hmm.
maybe if I ever have a surgery and, anesthesia is administered, the idea that it can interact with my brain and I can wake up and be clueless. It's like if you break your leg, for instance, it's painful.
Mm-hmm.
You have to go through rehabilitation. You have to go through physical therapy.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a dreadful, painstaking process, but you know what's going on. You're
Right.
fully aware. The idea of not knowing that you have a problem scares the hell out of me.
Mm-hmm.
It's like waking up every day and just being thoroughly unaware of what's going on. My mom can have a fantastic day, an exciting day where we do things and it's fun filled and we're laughing and whatnot. And for her, the next day, well, truthfully, every 5 minutes, she has no idea what happened the prior 5 minutes, the prior day. There's just no recollection
Right.
whatsoever. And that's what scares me. If it was just a matter of going through pain or uncomfortability or rehabilitation or of my body or something, I'd be like, yeah, that's something that's worth doing if it's going to result in a baby
Mm-hmm.
that we want. And at this point, desperately, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the idea that it's just a huge question mark about, the rest of my life and the idea that, I'd have to be taken care of and whatnot. And I don't know that it's hereditary. So before we have to make a decision, I'd like to see a neurologist
Mm-hmm.
and get the answers to those questions.
Right.
And once we do that, I'd be in a position better suited to decide if we should go through with in vitro. How do you feel about going through intrauterine insemination once more?
I think we need to find out, where the problems lie. And the reason I say that is I feel like we don't necessarily know when you ovulate. Last month the doctor said, yes, come on a Friday and we'll check when you're ovulating. We came on a Friday, he said, you're not ovulating. He said, come in 2 more days and you should be ovulating by then, and let's check.
Sunday. Mm-hmm.
And then you ovulated on Saturday. So we missed that boat because we were waiting for ovulation and it didn't happen.
Well, it did happen, but they weren't able to pinpoint it beforehand.
That's crazy to me.
That's crazy. I mean, I guess that's how it works. We went in on the Friday. I had an ultrasound. They did my blood test. Based on that, they weren't expecting me to ovulate the following day. I went in on the following Sunday, which was 2 days later, for the same blood test and ultrasound. And it was like, wow, based on your blood test, your progesterone levels are raised. That means that you already ovulated.
Mm-hmm.
But now if I went in on Friday and I hadn't ovulated, that meant that I ovulated on that Saturday.
Correct.
Which was a little strange.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not that they can't tell when I'm ovulating. I think your concern is that the process doesn't necessarily guarantee for them to know before I'm ovulating, and it can waste a whole month.
Correct.
And then we have to wait till the next month. So we waited till the next month and we did the IUI. They knew when I was ovulating, but there's only a 10% success rate.
Right.
And it didn't work. So I think that you're maybe a little misled. You're thinking that because it didn't work, it had something to do with them not pinpointing the ovulation. That's not the case. It didn't work because there's a 90% chance working against us.
Right. I don't know.
You understand?
Yeah, I understand. But it's when it comes to 10%, it seems like 10% is such a small amount when they're actually turkey basting the sperm inside of you. You know?
Because you think that it's that simple. And when I'm trying to explain to you, like the fertility specialist explained to me, like my gynecologist explained to me, even before we were having issues, when I was getting pregnant, like back to back to back, my doctor said to me, like, you're very lucky. Like, this isn't necessarily par for the course. This isn't normal. You know, like like the odds are acting in your favor.
Right.
Usually people have to try like month after month after month. And if a woman doesn't get pregnant after a year of trying, meaning 12 deliberate attempts, that's usually when they'll seek help.
Right.
So for us to try to get pregnant, for instance, with London and get pregnant the first time, and then to try to get pregnant with Jackson and then get pregnant the first time, and then, you know, try to get pregnant again. We got pregnant and then miscarried. Well, the first pregnancy after Jackson was a chemical pregnancy that just didn't sustain itself. Then to get pregnant again, you know, the first time out the gate and it wind up in a miscarriage, and then to get pregnant again and then have Brooklyn. You know, after all of these pregnancies, after 2 successful pregnancies with Madison and Logan, like, it's just, we have been extremely lucky. And I'm wondering if you appreciate how lucky we've been.
Right.
You know, it seems like women pop up pregnant left, right, and center. Like, you know, it's like it's an easy thing. But a lot of times pregnancies aren't planned. So how many times have they had sex before, maybe during a time when they were ovulating, and didn't wind up pregnant, and it didn't mean anything to them because they weren't trying.
Right.
Do you understand what I'm saying? When you're trying and it's not successful, you notice.
Right.
It's like prominent in your life. Like it's a thing. So I don't think that this whole scenario is as real for you. I don't think you realize how lucky we've been.
Probably
and
not.
The fact that we're trying right now, and it's not happening. I don't think that you really grasp that whole 10% idea.
Right. So, I mean, probably not, because like you said, it's been so easy. So what do you think the next step should be?
Well, it's a 10% chance of success with intrauterine insemination, but with in vitro, there's a 50% chance of success.
But their heads could come out bigger.
So I don't believe that their heads will come out bigger, but there is a higher chance of multiples. So we can end up unsuccessful, worst case scenario. We can end up with one baby. We can end up with two babies. We can end up with three babies, all depending on how many eggs we agree on having implanted. You know, like I know two couples personally that went through in vitro that wound up with triplets. The triplets, both of them are older now, but it's a possibility,
right?
You know, we may only decide to implant two, so there's a chance that, you know, we wind up with twins.
Right?
How do you feel about that?
I love kids. I mean,
so you'd be happy with twins?
Yeah, the whole thing is just the amount of time. You know, I work so much that I want to spend more time with the kids. You know, but I love kids. I would have 30 if I could.
Okay, wow, that's.
Yeah,
that's a little extra, but yeah. So I mean, I would be happy with twins as well. So we're in the same boat when it comes to that. But the question is, do you want to? Let's say the neurologist says that everything is cool and I don't have anything to worry about. It's not a genetic thing. It's not a hereditary thing. It's just a circumstantial thing.
Right.
Would you prefer to go another month of IUI? Which, and I'm going to just, you know, we're doing this to be informative. Well, partly to be informative. IUI is for us, and like we said last week, you know, our insurance doesn't cover this fertility treatment that we're going through. So everything for us is out of pocket. So if some of you might have the same type of insurance that we do that doesn't cover, some cover completely, some cover partly, and some don't cover at all. Ours doesn't cover at all. So if some of you are in the same boat and you're thinking about it, we're going to give you, you know, some roundabout prices so that you have an idea of what it costs. IUI, that one cycle that we went through that failed this last month was roughly in the ballpark of $3,000.
Correct.
Okay. On the other hand, if we go through in vitro with a higher success rate, the process is just over $20,000.
Correct.
If you include all of the medication. So it's, I think maybe 18 and change without, you know, some of the medication and some other, like maybe some blood work or, you know, some other little miscellaneous things, and just over maybe 20,000, 21, 22, something like that.
Right.
Including those things. So there is a significant difference in price and there's a significant difference in success.
Correct.
So that's one thing that we need to consider. And, the probability of pregnancy is the other thing that we have to consider, aside from, you know, my health concerns with the anesthesia.
Right.
So I think those are the three things that we need to think about. So with those three things put into consideration, what do you feel?
I think we should try the $3,000 one again.
Are you serious? You just being cheap.
Probably. Probably. Yeah, I think the $3,000 one.
It's so funny how you put it. Let's just try the $3,000 one again.
What?
I got to be honest with you. With it having such a small chance of success, I kind of feel like the saying that my parents used to say, like throwing good money after bad. In other words, we already spent that. Now we spent that. If we spend that again, then we're $6,000 in the hole if it doesn't work.
Right.
As opposed to spending a larger amount of money up front and having a higher rate of success. It may be more logical to go that route because it's 5 times more successful than the route that you're considering that's less expensive.
Right, that's true. But I think doing it one more time this way, even though it's $3,000 and all that, I think that makes more sense.
Why?
I think that you follow the doctor's orders and procedures, but you also do the ovulation kit as well, so you can try to guide yourself. I don't feel comfortable necessarily with you going under if you don't have to.
Right. But if we do, then we waste a whole month, and it just doesn't seem like it's the most promising prospect.
I mean, we could talk about it more, off here, but I don't know. Whatever you want to do, I'm fine with. I think that the $3,000 one makes more sense.
You just keep calling it. You sound so cheap.
I don't know the name of the procedures. I know in vitro.
IUI.
I don't remember. But, I think that one makes more sense in the situation. But, we can talk more and go see a doctor and find out more information about, especially, you going under, and if it's hereditary, if we should have concerns and all that other stuff,
Yeah. The whole reason why we're going through fertility is because we're impatient.
Right.
The doctor said that if we just continue to try the way that we've been trying, eventually, more than likely, we'll wind up pregnant. Just as, we've done in the past. We just, time is an issue. We want to have this baby. One of the reasons so that Brookie has a playmate.
Correct.
And, if 6 months go by, another year go by, or whatever, then there's a bigger gap between this, hopefully, baby and Brookie. So we just want to hurry up and make it happen. So I don't want to waste another month and another month and another. Like, we tried it. It didn't work. Now I feel like we should go for the gusto.
Gotcha.
And, to be honest, I've never even heard of, intrauterine insemination before this. Most people, I was under the assumption that they just had in vitro.
Right.
I've never even heard of IUI until my gynecologist suggested it to me and referred me to a fertility specialist. So I don't know. The idea of wasting a month and going through all of it, then having to wait, the weeks for the news, and then for it to be disappointing, and then to be like, all right, now let's go for in vitro. Because then now you're closer to $30,000 in the hole. And then, at that point, then you only have a 50% chance.
Right.
It's just, I don't know. It might be a waste is what I'm thinking.
Yeah. Well, I think we should go talk to the doctor again and go from there, see what he suggests, especially about you going under. And we can make our decision from there. I'm open to either or. So,
well, you're not going to be here because you're going to be away, and tomorrow is day 3, meaning the first day of your period is day 1, and all the other days, in succession are day 2, day 3, day 4, whatever. I'm supposed to go in on day 3 for blood work and an ultrasound, regardless of whether we want IUI or IVF. So you won't be here. So I'm going to have to go in, and I guess I'll have to talk to a doctor then about it. And then I'll relay whatever information, and then we can make a decision then.
Sounds good.
All right. I'm with it.
This week's podcast is brought to you by Kind Snacks. When it comes to packaging your kid's lunchbox in the morning, the struggle is real. You might not have time to cut fruit in star shapes, but you can still be a hero with Kind Kids Bars. Now, Kind Kids Bars have 25% less sugar than the leading granola bar and come in flavors kids love, like chewy chocolate chip and chewy honey oat. All right, now to get 20% off your order of Kind Kids Bars, go to kindsnacks.com/CaseyCrew and enter code CaseyCrew at checkout. That's kindsnacks.com/CaseyCrew with CaseyCrew at your checkout for a special offer. And this portion of the podcast is brought to you by TLC 90-Day Finance before the 90 days. Now, it's the 90-day countdown known around the world. TLC's hit show 90 Day Fiancé is taking you on a journey from the very beginning in 90 Day Fiancé before the 90 days. Now, follow along as 7 international love stories unfold, leading to the most unusual first dates. You got to check it out. It's hilarious. Now you get to see, can the relationship survive, and who will get down on one knee. True love means going the distance, literally. How far will it go to find love? Don't miss TLC's 90 Day Fiancé before the 90 days. Sundays at 8, 7 Central. All right, now we were supposed to talk about suicide, and I was supposed to get in touch with the girl and try to actually get her on the phone. Mm-hmm. But we didn't do that because it's 3 o'clock in the morning. So I want to have that conversation next week if you don't mind.
And you definitely want to make her part of the conversation? Yeah,
I think it is, because I think having somebody who felt that way and me talking to them, I want to try one more time to get on the phone. I mean, I can't get on the phone at 3 in the morning. Mm-hmm. So I want to try one more time because her story is amazing. And before I tell her story, I would love for her to tell her own story.
But let me ask you this. Are you setting up like a phone line situation?
I'm going to try to. I spoke to her about it and she was open to it. So it's just 3 o'clock in the morning. I didn't want to reach out to her at 3 o'clock in the morning, you know?
Okay.
You know?
Okay.
So we pushed that off. So let's go to an email of the week. There's 2 emails. You
want to go to an email because I have something else that I'd like to talk about?
Oh, sure.
All right. So the other day, we were in the city. We had dinner and we were running around the city. We had a really nice day and something came up and I thought that it was the most interesting conversation that I would have liked to just like put a hold on it the way that you do sometimes when we start a conversation and say, all right, just, let's just hold it for the podcast and just have the conversation live then so that it's fresh and, we're not rehashing, a conversation that we had prior. But we kind of just like went with the conversation because it was good. It was interesting and I was enjoying it. Do you know what conversation I'm talking about?
No, I don't.
All right. So I'll talk as though I'm talking to the people then. One day I was online and I was searching for something. And while I was searching, some things were like popping up and I was going from like link to link to link. And it was like an advertisement in a sense, but it caught my attention. And it was something that, they threw something out there as bait. And then you click, you go, and they kind of make you wait to go all the way to the end so that you're interested and then you want to buy, the seminar. You want to buy the whatever it is about it. So the question was, let me try to remember exactly how it went. The question was, what is it that you think that most men want in a relationship? What do you think that it is that would be the one thing, the most important thing, the most significant thing that makes a man fall in love? And what caught my attention about that is that I had just read a DM where it was a very long, detailed DM where a woman was asking my opinion of the same question. It was, she's in a relationship and her man doesn't necessarily want to commit. And first she dropped hints and then it got to a point where she was just down and outright asking. It got to a point where she was begging, in a sense, for the ring, begging for a proposal, begging for a commitment, begging for a future with the person that she's with. And she wanted to know what I thought is the one thing that would cause a man to fall deeply in love. And after I read them, like, wow, I really have to think about that. And if I have an answer, how would I articulate it? And then not too long after, I saw this thing online. So I click, and it was the way that they presented it. It was so compelling. It was like, the deep voice and, what do you think? And, we have the answer and blah, blah, blah. So it takes you through this long thing where it was really just like, kind of like meant for suckers almost. Like, like I'm sitting there and I'm clicking and I'm listening and I'm like, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes invested in like this like cat and mouse game where it's just like all these implications and whatnot. And basically when you got to the end, they just gave you a taste. And the taste was that They believe that all men, and they did say all men, have a hidden desire to be needed. That men, it's imperative that they are with a woman, or if they find a woman that needs them, that's the woman that captures their hearts and that they will want to be with forever. A woman that, in a sense, strokes their ego, but through the sense of them needing them. What do you think about that?
I think that's true.
Explain.
I think men.
You think all men, or do you think
I can only speak. I can only speak for myself, so I would say some men. I think some men want a woman that is a little needy, meaning,
needy. That just doesn't even sound good.
For instance, let's say in this relationship, you change the light bulbs, you take the trash out, you make the money, you do everything that a quote unquote man is supposed to do. I think it would make me feel away. Like there's things that men do. And I know in the society nowadays it's, everything is equal rights. And I get it. And that is true in certain aspects. But I'm a man. I want to take out the trash. I'm a man. If there's something broke, I want to fix the broke thing. I'm a man. If I hear a noise at night, I don't want to wake you up and be like, hey, I heard a noise downstairs. You want to go check it? Like there's certain things that as a man, I want to handle in a relationship. That's how I feel. So is that a little bit of being needed? Yes. I like the fact that, if you have to go on your phone or something's not working on your phone, you call me and ask me. I like the fact that if electronics is not working around the house, the TV can't come on, a DVR is not working, or the vacuum is messed up. I love the fact that you call me because yes, it makes me feel a little needy. Like, oh yeah, she needs me to fix this. Yes, it makes me feel wanted, makes me feel better. That's absolutely positively true. I think any man that sits there and says that's not true is a damn liar. I mean, you want to feel like your spouse needs you, and vice versa. When there's certain things that happens with me, I'm sure you want to feel like you need it. Like if I'm going through problems or I need a friend to talk to, I call you, and I'm sure that makes you feel like, yeah, my baby needs me. So yeah, I definitely feel like a woman who needs a man makes the man more attracted or make the man want to stay longer because it feels like, yeah, she needs me. I agree with that. Absolutely.
Well, the impression that I got from the little bit that I saw, and like I said, they just gave a taste and then they wanted you to pay for the elaborate version of what they were suggesting, which I didn't do. So it kind of leaves the rest up for discussion.
Right.
I kind of got the impression, though, from the little bit that I heard, that they were suggesting that men want women that are somewhat incapacitated in certain ways and submissive in others, which would kind of give the man a sense of like, I couldn't do that without you, daddy. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Like needed in that way, not necessarily needed just to change a light bulb.
I mean, that's a slave.
But
I don't think any man wants a slave per se.
Not necessarily. No, a slave is someone that does something for you. Not necessarily a slave, but a woman that is somewhat less of a woman. Like a woman that can't necessarily make decisions for themselves without calling her man, or can't do certain things for herself without calling her man. So let me ask you this, okay? And we touched on this, but we didn't really get the opportunity to finish the conversation. So I'm going to ask you now. Let's say you were single and you were dating.
Mm-hmm.
And let's say that there's two women that are equally as attractive.
Okay.
One no more attractive than the other.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them is a working girl. She makes what we would consider, say, a normal income.
Right.
And she's living a normal lifestyle. But she works every week and, kind of in a check to check fashion in a sense. And then the other girl is extremely successful.
Right.
And can do for herself pretty much what you can do for her.
Correct.
And she doesn't need you financially. She doesn't need you in ways comparable to financially. Pretty much all that she needs you for is companionship, good conversation, and to be a good lover.
Right.
So she's more of your equal.
Mm-hmm.
Just based on that information, which girl would you be more willing to want to settle down with?
I mean, that's a tough one. Because of course you want a girl that's independent and working hard and making her own money and making her own stride. So that is very attractive. But what's also attractive is somebody who needs you a little bit, who, doesn't make as much as you do and doesn't work as hard as you do. So that's attractive too, because I mean, truthfully, it's like you're taking care of somebody. And not taking care of like that's your kid, like you got to take care of this little chick because she's broke. Not like
Okay.
that. I'm talking about, all right, for instance, in this relationship, I bring the majority of the money in, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not to say that you need me, but you lean on me for things at times. So for instance, if, and this is on both sides, if you want to go buy something, we have a conversation before you buy it.
Mm-hmm.
That feels good to me. When I buy something, we have a conversation before I buy it. That feels like a relationship. If you did your own shit and made your own money and you just come home with a brand new car and be like, babe, this is my new car. And I
Go check it out.
And I felt like, yeah, go check it out. And I felt like there was no conversation before that. That would make me feel away. Like that would make me feel, even though that's your right and that's your desire, that's your money, you worked hard for it, you got your own accounts, I would feel a little funny. I like more of the, babe, I'm thinking about getting a car. Let's go look at it together. And then, or even me saying, hey, babe, I'm thinking about getting a car. Let's go look at it together. Opposed to you just coming home with a brand new car, brand new bag, brand new watch. Like, what's up? Even though I think people are supposed to like that. Oh, my wife or my girl is independent. She get her own money. She does her own shit. That's cool. But I want to be part of that conversation. I want to be part of that deliberation if I should or shouldn't get this or where it's going, So for me, the other one would be more comfortable.
Mm-hmm. So you don't love the idea of hyper independence.
Correct.
So you like independence, but not hyper independence.
Right.
But now how does that relate to being needed? Because coming home and having a conversation before a big decision is made, that's like consideration almost.
That is consideration.
Right? But that doesn't necessarily relate to the topic of being needed.
It's a little needy. It's a little being needed because, in all actuality, that person can't make that purchase without talking to the spouse. So that's a little, you need to talk to the spouse. You need my
consent.
Consent. Right.
My approval.
Exactly.
My okay.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead and get that car, boo-boo.
Absolutely.
Uh-huh.
Absolutely. And not to say that it's a one-way street, it's a two-way street, because if I wanted to buy something or the man wanted to, it's the same thing. I can't just come home with something and you're like, what the fuck is that? No, it has to be consent.
Yeah, you don't buy a pair of jeans without calling me first.
Correct. But it's still a little feeling like I had to give consent. You know what I mean? It's still a feeling of she needs me. Yeah, I wouldn't want to be in a situation where I felt like my partner didn't need me.
Okay, so let me be clear with my thoughts about that.
Uh-huh.
That seems more of part of the relationship culture. Like we're considerate of one another and we have a respect for one another.
Right. True.
Like a predetermined idea of how the relationship will run.
Right.
To make both parties happy.
Correct.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Needing somebody is something that comes more organically.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a decision. It's not deliberate.
Right.
It is something that comes naturally,
Mm-hmm.
that if a woman does need a man or feels needy, that the man picks up on. And if this thing that I watch, what they were proposing is true, that he likes.
Correct.
Okay. And the reason is because it gives him a bigger ego.
Right.
It strokes his ego and it makes him feel more inflated. It makes him feel like more of a man.
Correct.
So how do you feel about ego when it comes to the success of a relationship between a man and a woman?
What do you mean ego as far as being needy?
Well, being needed is part of his ego being stroked. So how do you feel about ego altogether? How important do you think that it is to stroke a man's ego? Do you think that a woman should stroke a man's ego even if it's contrived? In other words, do you think that, because what I got from this thing that I saw was that they almost felt as though a woman who dumbed herself down would be more successful in a relationship than a woman that was, like we just described, as hyper independent.
I think that if and this is going to sound crazy, but I think if a woman wants a man and wants to keep a man, I think she has to stroke his ego. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I can sit here and lie and be like, no, men don't care. No, yes, they do. Like, to stroke a man's ego is everything. And I think that's how women catch men. Like,
so you think that there's truth to this thing that I
absolutely
watched? Okay, explain.
Yeah, I think if a woman strokes a man's ego and makes a man feel needed and makes a man feel like, you know, quote unquote, I can't go on without you. I think that will make a man fall deeply in love and be in a predicament, because I think men get off by feeling like the big daddy syndrome, like I'm big daddy and you got to come to me. I think most men feel that way. And I think that's how...
I'm big daddy and you have to come to me.
For everything, yeah. That's how I think men feel. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh. Go ahead.
I think early in our relationship, I think part of us being together was the fact that I felt like you needed me. Like,
how did you feel that I needed you?
Well, think about it. You know,
oh, this is good. What do you mean?
You know, early on,
I never felt like I was Okay, wait, go ahead.
Not that you felt it, but you know, you think about it. You know, we bought our first house. We lived far from everybody in Jersey. You know, you had no friends over, right? Mm-hmm. Your family was an hour and 45 minutes away.
Hour and 45 minutes away
from Queens. How far was that from Queens? Hour 30.
Like an hour and 15 minutes.
Hour and 15 minutes away. So it was like...
I was on an island all by myself.
And you needed me. Like, when I got home, it was me and you, you know? You almost had to wait till I got home because there was nothing out in West Milford but trees and deers and bears. So it was like you needed me.
One
you needed me to conversation.
One
supermarket, one pizzeria, one everything. So,
yeah,
you know, back then it was like... It was a feeling of... needing me. Like you didn't have any friends. Everything was built.
I had friends, they just weren't nearby.
But everything was built on our relationship, and everything was built around me. It was built around my career. It was
Rashawn centric.
It was. Mm-hmm. It was, and it built. It gave me an ego. It gave me a feeling of she needs me. Oh, she needs me. Like, not that I did that, but that was the feeling. You know, and I think most men like that feeling that a woman would need them for things, you know, whether it's financial, whether it's emotional, whether it's just shit around the house. I think men get off on a woman needing them. Not to say that it's right, but I think that's, you know, if a woman is looking like, how can I have my, but for different men, it's a different thing. Some men want an independent women that do things on their own. I don't.
You don't.
I don't want a fully independent woman that has their own situation and can do their own thing. I like joint. Mm-hmm. You know, I don't like you doing your own shit and I do my own shit and then we come together in the middle. I don't like that. Like, that doesn't make me happy. What makes me happy is being able to have a conversation with my spouse or my girl about what's going on, whether it's financial, whether it's emotional, whether it's just, hey, babe, I'm thinking about buying a new couch. Like, I like having those decisions and having those conversations. Now I can say, babe, get whatever couch you want. I don't need to see it. That's fine, but
at least you consented to that.
Exactly. I don't want to just come home and the whole fucking living room is different. And I'm like, what the fuck is this? And he'd be like, oh, I just bought a new living room furniture. Even though people do that in relationships, I don't like that. And that's just not me.
So would it be fair to say that you don't like a woman that is too strong?
Strong has nothing to do with it. I would say too independent. Strong is sexy. Strong is somebody that, takes care of home and does what they have to do. I mean, too independent where you're on your own independently. Strong is sexy. Like you want a strong woman. When I mean independent, I mean do it on your own.
You're not needed.
And don't need me for anything. I don't like that. Strong is fine. There's nothing wrong with strong.
So do you think that the impression that I got that a woman needs to, let's say she is independent. Okay, let's put it this way. Let's say she is thoroughly independent. She can have the same car you have.
That's fine.
And whatnot. Do you think that she has a chance of being more successful in having a man fall deeply in love with her and wanting to commit to her if she dumbs her independence down a little bit?
I wouldn't say dumb your independence down. It's just a matter of opening up your independence. I mean, an independent woman is sexy, but it's if you're so independent that you're on your own and don't need me, your boyfriend or your spouse or fiance for nothing, it would make me feel a little way. I'm just saying open that independence up where we're equal in a relationship and we both make decisions based on our relationship.
Okay. Because I was watching something on television not too long ago, and not to bore you with details, but the girl was, everything that she said was like, I want a 50-50 relationship. I want everything 50-50, 50-50,
right.
50-50. And I remember thinking to myself, I'm all about equality, but to be honest, like, I don't want a 50-50 relationship.
What do you mean?
I don't want to take on what I look at as manly roles in the relationship. Like, I don't want to look at the relationship like, well, we're both capable of doing that, so we both should have an equal shot at it. Like, when we walk into a building, I don't want it 50-50 where I open the door for you sometimes.
Right.
I don't want to do that. Unless I just happen to be, going first and I push the door open and whatnot. But I don't want to be chivalrous of you.
Right.
Because I feel that that's something that men do for women. I think that there are things that women do and there are things that men do. I'm not saying that these are exclusive things that, women can't share in some of those roles and men can't share in some of those roles. Like, of course, it's nice if sometimes I come home and you made something to eat, or, sometimes if you have to leave early, and I mean, you did give this example, but sometimes you leave early and I may have to take out the trash or something like that. So I'm not saying that these things are exclusive, but I love a chivalrous man.
Right.
So I don't want to open the door for you. I don't want to say, well, I'm capable, so I'll mow the lawn. Or, I'm capable, so I'm going to change these light bulbs. I don't want to do those things. I want to be like, babe, the light bulb in the bathroom is out. When on your way home, pick up some bulbs.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? So I don't want it 50-50 in that sense where we're both human, we're both able-bodied, so we can both perform the same tasks. I don't want that type of 50-50. 50-50 emotionally, 50-50 with love and consideration and thoughtfulness, things of that nature. Yes, of course. But yeah, I kind of, I like when a man makes me feel like a woman, and as a woman, I like to make you feel like a man.
Right.
But I just thought it was interesting as far as, and I actually took it as dumbing yourself down, like, to make a man feel needed. And I don't know, I definitely think that there's some truth to it. And I do think that and I'm not suggesting this at all, but I do believe that if women manipulated their behavior a little bit, that, and it's sad in a sense because, you know, you never want manipulation to be a part of a relationship. But I do think, based on what I heard and based on our conversation, just based on my own personal thoughts, I do think that if women went out of their way to stroke a man's ego and make him feel needed, even if he's not as needed as they're proposing, I do think that that is a way to make a man maybe fall more deeply in love with a woman.
I agree.
I do believe that.
No, I agree. I agree as well.
Not that I'm suggesting it. I just believe that.
Absolutely.
All right.
I agree that as well.
All right. So let's move on to an email.
Well, no, we actually got to get up out of here. It's over an hour, so we got to get up and go. I got to get to work.
So no email this week?
No email this week.
All right. So we'll talk about what you suggested on the next podcast.
Yeah, we'll see if I can get the girl on. We'll talk about, you know, how people feel and depressed and
an email for
suicide
them.
And all that. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
All
Because
right.
you know me, I'll talk forever.
I know. I know.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, and let me just tell people out there, if you live in the Jersey, New York City area, if you follow me on Instagram, you see that I've been doing a lot of house flipping, and Gia and I have been going through houses and looking for just the perfect house and trying to create wealth through real estate and have some properties and have something that we could pass on to our kids. So we are actually doing a class in Jersey about, you know, we call it Flipping New Jersey, where we're teaching how to purchase and find homes and flip homes and what a hard money lender is and real estate agents and all that. And if you want more information about that, you can hit up eventbrite.com. Just search DJ Envy. That will pop up. And of course, the car show, which is November 3rd. So 2 big events we're doing in Jersey in the next couple of months, and we want you guys to be a part of. One is the car show. It's going to be amazing. Shout to Cardi B. Cardi B just said that she will be giving her cars as well. So Cardi B's cars will be in the car show. And I look forward to seeing you guys. All right. So it's time to get up out of here. I'm DJ Envy.
And I am Gia Casey.
And that's another edition of the KC Crew.
Toodles.
Thanks again to Kind Snacks for supporting this week's episode of the KC Crew. Now, Kind Kids bars have 25% less sugar than the leading kids granola bars and come in flavors that the kids love, like chewy chocolate chip and chewy honey oat. Now, that's a lunchbox win. All right, now to get 20% off your order of Kind Kids bars, go to kindsnacks.com/KCCrew and enter code KCCrew at checkout. Again, that's kindsnacks.com/KCCrew with the code KCCrew at checkout for this special offer. Now, they send a lot of these to the house, and London and Jackson love it. So try it out for your kids. Again, that's kindsnacks.com/KCCrew.